Hello, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente. This is Star Self, and welcome to Astrology Unplugged. I want to start out tonight and thank everybody for all the support I've been receiving through different messages and different mediums. Uh, Very much appreciated, and things are going pretty good. I'm just going day by day here to see how things go. Um, Tonight is a replay of an article I did 12 years ago. It was called Depression Seen Through the Eyes of the 12 Signs. And at that time, I was writing a lot for the magazine called OM Times. And they shared that article, and it happened to be one of their most popular of that year. So tonight, I'm going to go through it. I want to ad lib plenty. But if you would like a copy of the article as is, just go to starself.com. Go to starself.com/depression. Everything has to be lowercase, lowercase. Starself.com/depression.doc. And that will bring it up in your search browser, and you can print that if you like. If not, you can just go along with what's being talked about tonight. Okay. I don't usually do things like this, but at the time I did because how do I say this? Too many people are looking for me to blame the planets for things. That's really an abuse of astrology. But nevertheless, sometimes the planets are causing some things, and they can be tough, there's no doubt. So that's why I wrote this article in 2012, and that's why I think it was popular, was a lot of people are trying to understand because depression is a weird topic. Yeah, as you know, people fight about it all the time. Is this chemical? Is this in my head? Is this made up? Is this a lack of emotional um, integrity? What is it? Well, then there are a lot of people that get very angry and they get very depressed and they get very defensive. So I'm not here to argue about what it is because I don't know what it is. All I can tell you is through the eyes of the general 12 signs of the zodiac, I'm going to talk about what your tendency is towards depression as an Aries, as a Taurus, etc. Now, remember, and I think most of you do give me quite a good break on this. When I talk about the sun signs, I'm not talking about somebody you know down the street. I'm talking about the sign of Gemini, the sign of Cancer. And if you read the Exquisite Zodiac, you can see how that was the same way too. So I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I'm trying to elucidate the dynamics of that particular archetype and talk about its propensity towards depression or towards not depression. And so keep that in mind. And I remember when I wrote this last time, some Sagittarian folk got very upset with me because I wrote that this is the one sign that hardly ever gets depressed. And apparently that person did. And I wasn't trying to pick on her. I was just trying to say, in general, Sages don't get depressed. But the rest of your chart can show all kinds of signs and symbols with your Saturn placements, with your 12th house placements, with your Pluto placements, with 8th house placements, with your Saturn angles. There can be many, many reasons why your chart leans towards depression. Now, certainly, if you have a long history of it, you're going to want to see a psychologist, somebody who's an expert in this subject to try to help you. I've dealt with a lot of clients with depression. Most of it comes from, in my opinion, it comes from the past life. It comes from not treating ourselves very well. It doesn't come from the parents. It comes from us being too tough on ourselves. That's been my experience. So tonight you'll be seeing me jump out and I'll be going to, let's see here. I'll be going to this graphic quite often. You've seen it before. It's my main teaching graphic. It's the main one that's shown in the book, The Exquisite Zodiac. And you will see me refer to the signs as male, 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 odd numbered, female, 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 female. And whereas the odd numbered signs tend much more towards not being depressed because they're fiery signs. The even numbered signs tend towards depression much more, the 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. So as we go through the zodiac, then I'll be pointing to that, and you'll be able to see how that follows along. If you're not real depressed, don't worry about this graphic. Doesn't mean you're going to get depressed, but we're studying from afar. We're studying a long distance, wide angle view of how these signs operate and what leads them toward depression more than other signs or the other way. So that's what you need to keep in mind. And if you do get depressed and I say your sign doesn't, then forgive me because I'm not trying to lay one on you or make you depressed. Anyhow, today it's depressing anyway. I'll share two main reasons why these times are very depressing right now. And I'm going to show you exactly what's causing that. So, when we go to the zodiac of where the planets are now, you can see that in general, this is the planets at the time the show started. Pluto is at a square with Eris. Even though it's 24 and one's at 1 degree, that's still 8 degrees. It's not a real strong square, but these are the two heavy mamas, Pluto and Eris. These are the two planets that are causing the Earth to rumble right now. These are the two that are causing us to have to dig deeper into issues to solve them than we have ever before, because we didn't have an Aries before. So as these two keep traveling and squaring, eventually Pluto will move out of the way because Aries will pretty much stay still. That kind of depression that comes from that scariness of those two era-turning planets, such as Pluto and Eris, that will start to fade away. The other thing that I was telling you a minute ago is this. As we have been traveling for the past several months, everything has been contained every month within Pluto and Uranus. The moon comes through, Pluto and Uranus. All these planets are staying contained for just the way it is, just by the luck or the bad luck of it.
Birgit, ich bin gerade mitten im Astro-Zoom. Kann ich dich später anrufen?
Okay, ich wollte nur wissen, also du hast morgen Zeit?
Ja.
Okay, I don't know what that was about, but that was fresh German talking. Okay, now, as you can tell, Pluto and Uranus don't move that fast. Jupiter, 1 year per sign, so it's going to take another couple of months until the moon gets free of these. But for the last several months, the moon has been coming out here all by itself for 2, 3 weeks. Then it goes back within the group, within the group, within the group, comes back out, and as the moon's been traveling all these times, as it is now, you're getting fresh bucket patterns to the moon. And when you got a bucket pattern to the moon, I don't care what sign it's in, it's still the moon. The moon is moody. This is why, in general, for the last 6 months or so, things have been off and on, real moody, not so moody, real moody, not so moody. That's why. Now, in about 4 days, the moon will come back and hide amongst the trees here. And then in about 10 days, it'll come out again. It'll still be traveling alone. When it travels alone, it becomes the handle of the bucket pattern. So eventually we're going to get to where Mercury is going to pass this up, and Chiron is going to pass this up, and the sun is going to pass this up. And you'll notice this triangular piece of pie is going to start to separate and dissipate. So we won't have such overall general depression like we've been having. Now, to talk about the 12 signs of the zodiac, like I said to you, if you want to get a copy of this, you can go to starself.com/depression.jpg. No, I'm sorry, no. Dot .doc.
DOC.
.doc, and it's all lowercase. It's all lowercase, okay? And if not, I'll get it to you somehow. So when we talk about Aries, we're talking about the first male sign of the zodiac, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I got to get this right for everybody. Okay, there's the teaching zodiac. All right. We're talking about Aries right now. And when you look at these little letters inside, cardinal fire, mutable air, fixed fire, fixed water. That's what these symbols stand for. They represent this column and this column. Well, the fire signs, every odd number, Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sag, Aquarius. The fire signs are in general not depressive. Doesn't mean you don't know people that can be depressive, but in general, they're not because they're a fire sign. And a fire sign is made up of fire and zest, and they're upbeat and they're full of life. And in general, these signs do not get depressed that much because they can draw upon their fire rather easily. Leos, Sagittarians, and of course, all these signs do get periodic depression. But with Aries being the case, they generally don't get depressed because they're the first sign of the zodiac. They're the spark of the zodiac. And they love being dynamic and they love being explorative. That's what Aries is about. Explore things so I can see all the neat things that I'm doing. Aries is obsessed with the self. Look at all the neat things I can do. And that's a really neat thing to see. It's a good thing that they have it. But what happens commonly, a lot of parents that raise Aries are not Aries. They're Cancers and they're Capricorns, and they try to sit on that Aries. Calm down, will you? Will you just calm down? Quit jumping on the cushions. Quit screaming so loud. Quit. And when you see that, and I see it a lot, Aries do not respond to being squashed all the time. And what you end up doing, which is really terrible, is you squash their spirit. And that's what Aries is about. It's about having a strong instinctive spirit, intuitive spirit. Most of them are very childlike. They're very innocent. They're very fiery. And what you do not do to an Aries child is discourage them. You do not teach them to look before they leap. You don't train them to look before they leap. They're not made to do it. They're made to leap first, bust their head open, then learn. Ooh, that hurt. And if you know any Aries in your life, you're going to see people that are constantly bumping their head. Susan says, why not? I'm telling you why not. Because they're made to be head first. You've seen football players that are diving in head first. They've just got that strong Aries impulse to dive in head first, fire first. And we don't want them getting hurt, of course, but it's their instinct that you're squashing. So Miss Cancer Mama, Miss Virgo Dad, Mr. Virgo Daddy, I know you think you're helping your Virgo, your Aries child, but you're not. Of course you want to avoid jumping off a cliff. Of course. But you want to, in general, let them go head first anyway. That's how they learn. They learn by burning their fingers. Ow! That's hot. They don't learn by you cautioning them. This is a big problem in the zodiac. You're teaching them to be non-self. And a lot of them grow up screwed up. They learn to not trust their instincts. What do I do? My instinct is to go. No, go. It can be really rotten. It can be terrible when all the intentions are pure. Most parents by then give up and just let them do it anyway. Now, of course, you could have 6 other planets in Aries, or maybe just 2 planets in Aries. It all depends on the whole chart. But Aries' instinct is to go. Let's just go, go, go. I'm driving. I'm behind the wheel. I got dibs on the passenger seat. Let's go. You guys get in the back. That's just the way Aries are. So the real big danger with them is over cautioning them. Now, when you go to Taurus, um, okay, to the second sign, notice that it's an earth sign. We're looking here at the second letter that goes to the elements, fire, earth, air, water. And notice they rotate fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. So every second letter is what we're talking about. So Taurus is the first earth sign. It's the first earth, and it's not fire. And Tauruses don't want to leap head first. They don't want to bang into other people. They want to sit back in their chair. They want to be relaxed. They want to have their drink and their kitty cat and the campfire at their feet. And they're very relaxed, being still and fixed. They're a fixed earth sign. And that's where they get the stubbornness and all the other traits that you hear about. But Taurus is about staying put. Why? Because they enjoy it. They just enjoy it. They don't want you buying them. Why did you buy me a new pair of shoes? I don't want a new pair of shoes. I love my old shoes. And these people are fanatical about hanging on to their old stuff. Every sign is different. You have to learn that through that book, and then you'll start to understand how all the 12 signs differentiate. Are you hearing me okay? Okay, good. Thanks. Now, you can have a Taurus that's a mess with tons of Aries and tons of Leo, and they're so fiery, they don't know what Taurus is talking about. I'm not talking about these people. I'm talking about the generic sign of Taurus. Taurus basically wants to be sitting in their Archie bunker chair in their little hobbit hole, and they're very passive, and they like to eat and be content, and that's fine. Now, most of the time, Tauruses don't get depressed, but they can. Taurus is the one sign that if you look at their map, they travel like this. Maybe a little up and down. And that's it. They don't want to go like this. They don't want to go down. Whoa. like other signs do. They like it nice and steady. And when you're with them, it's a very nice feeling to be next to a steady Eddie. These people are very content and very stable. Of course, the rest of the chart can get nutty with them, and they can end up being very strange, like all of us can be. For the most part, Tauruses are very stable. People like being around them because they give off a sense of being relaxed and steady and dependable. Now you're going to notice that every time we jump signs, it gets crazier each time. That's what that book's about. That book's about why does Taurus get different than Gemini? Why does Gemini get different than Cancer? It explains all these hops in very clear terms. So now we get to the third sign of Gemini. Now, in Gemini, it's the third sign. It's a male sign. It's an air sign. And air and fire, all the all the male signs are either fire or air. And all of the even signs are uh, water or earth. With Gemini, you got to remember, this is one thing that we discovered. We knew it when we wrote the book, but we discovered more and more as we kept writing. These signs really don't want to be like the sign before. They just don't want to be because they've been bogged down in that sign's energy and they get to their sign and they want to spring out of it into something new. So the book's very much about how one sign leaps out of the nature of the previous sign because they want to be feel different energy. So you got this Taurus is very low flying and stable. All of a sudden you got this Gemini. And I always use the butterfly as a real good example. And if you know Geminis want to go try this and I want to try this, to over here, and I get bored, and go do this, and go do that, go do that. So, in other words, Gemini is usually a sign that doesn't get depressed. They are the most bored sign of the zodiac, but their boredom lasts 2.5 minutes. Okay, then they get over it. They get over things within minutes, but they usually do not get depressed. Usually, that's again a major problem, but they get bored all the time because they constantly want change. Gemini is the sign of what's on the other side of the fence. Ooh, let's go over. Ooh, what's on that side? Ooh, what's on that side? This getting old. Let's go on that side. It's just constantly looking. They live in the future, to be honest with you. Now, I have noticed Geminis get depressed, and I'm going to bring this out because
Me too.
it's not talked about enough. Gemini is one of the most critical signs of the zodiac. I mean, criticizing you. Virgo's the other. Criticizing other people is a very Geminian trait, especially the women. Very
Oh,
critical of other people. Virgo too, but Virgos really tries hard to keep their lips zipped, but they're very critical. But they keep trying to zip it so you won't know that. Gemini doesn't care. They're just going to criticize. And if you've ever been told off by a Gemini woman around you, you know what I mean. They just feel like, hey, I'm just saying how it is. That's how they justify it. Hey, just saying how it is. Boy, that pimple on your cheek sure is getting bigger. And everybody else in the room is, oh my God. But that's a Gemini trait. He's blunt, like Sagittarius, and sure, some of them have a lot of tact, etc. But in general, Gemini people can be very blunt about what they see, and that all comes from one trait. Geminis objectify. That's
the
where
what?
it comes from. Objectify. Don't Aries do that too? Somewhat, Susan. somewhat. Objectify. Talk about you in the room as if you're not there. I'm going to talk to Jane for a while, and I'm going to tell Jane all about Claudia. Well, Claudia's sitting right there. I'm objectifying Claudia. This is a real bad trait of Gemini. It's very normal because that's what they do with everything in life. They objectify it. That's how they learn. They turn everything into an object and they study it. That's how they learn. They don't really mean harm, but they do a lot of harm. They do a lot of harm. And then the Gemini, such as our past president, the one is running again, that Gemini, they'll deny it. They'll say something, then deny it. I just said blue. I didn't say blue. I said green. I say green. I said blue. I said yellow. That's very Geminian to be real defensive of what you just said, what you were just caught with that shoe in your mouth. Now, why is it Gemini doesn't be born to do that? It's a spin-off of their nature. Their nature is to find out about things, objectify that thing. Ooh, look, that thing different than that thing. That thing's different than that thing. And no harm is intended. But early signs of the zodiac don't have as much tact as you get with later signs of the zodiac as the soul grows symbolically. None of this means one sign's better than the other. But Geminis usually do not get depressed. They get bored, and then you just give them a catalog and they're happy as a goose. Okay? Just, just I've never seen a happy goose. I've never seen an unhappy one. Have you? But they just want to try new things, try new things, try new things. And usually they get out of their boredom very quickly. Now, if a Gemini is going through a lengthy depression, then you've got troubles. You've got somebody that needs a therapist to talk about mom issues, dad issues, whatever it is. Okay. It's a very amusing, entertaining thing to go through this kind of exercise. So now we just hit the third sign, and now we're going to enter fourth sign. And we go into the fourth sign of Cancer, clearly known as the moodiest sign of the zodiac. The moodiest sign of the zodiac. And yes, that does lean towards depression. Now, I know plenty of cancers that aren't, but an awful lot of cancers are. And your moodiest signs of the zodiac and your most depressed signs of the zodiac are Cancer and Capricorn, without a doubt. These are your moodiest signs. There are plenty of reasons for that. Matter of fact, I have done, especially when I was on the radio, um, polls. What's your favorite sign? What's your most unfavorite sign? To be around, what's your most favorite? And in general, people say their most favorite sign to be around, this may surprise you, they love being around the Geminis and the Libras. And when you think about that, it makes a lot of sense because they're both very talkative, they're both very social, they're both usually upbeat, they'll usually talk about anything you want to, they're both very social. But without a doubt, in the polls I've taken, their least favorite people in general are the Cancers and Capricorns. And I am one of them. So you can see I pick on myself too. So Cancer is really prone to depression, very common. And I know plenty of cancers that are just fine, but I know a bunch of them that just aren't. And the reason why, and this is a very tough sign, the reason why is they don't feel like they can handle things. You tune into my show, you're going to get my answers. And I'm not going to pussyfoot. I'm going to tell you what I've discovered. And I'm not saying I'm right, but you show me where I'm wrong. Cancer is a sign that is not secure in itself, and that's why it clings to the family because it's just growing. And like Eliza said a long time ago, somebody picked up that soul, threw him in the water. What do you think happens first time, first water sign? You're going to worry about drowning. She was absolutely correct. And of the cancers I've seen, every one of them have two attributes: fear of being abandoned, fear of being attacked. Fear of being abandoned, fear of being attacked. It's just innate. We're not blaming anybody. It's innate within the sign. That's why the sign clings to mom and dad. The sign is about family, brother, sister. I can't tell you how many cancer clients have come to me in my office and brought their mother with them. I understand it. That's just how it is. Now, cancers I have noticed do a lot better when their sun or moon are up near the top of the chart, not near the bottom. They tend more towards depression. So you ask yourself, why do they get depressed? Well, they get depressed mainly because they feel, whether it's right or wrong, they feel like nobody loves them. They feel like everybody's making fun of them. One thing you do not do, get your get your chisel out again. Chisel on your forehead, these amongst these other things I've been telling you. Do not mock a cancer. I'm not saying anything else about it. Don't do it. Oftentimes, they feel mocked when they're not mocked. But it doesn't matter what's real. What matters what's real to them. That's what matters. And they feel mocked. And you don't do that. That just doesn't fly. You'll find with Cancer personalities, if you take your time with them and show them TLC, they're just wonderful people. Just wonderfully patient, caring, sensitive people. They almost always have an affinity towards growing the children, helping the children, educating the children. Even with the idiot, Bill Cosby, and all the things he did, you could see the cancer in him. He was very childlike. His perversion came from other parts of the child. Robin Williams, Tom Cruise. These people are childlike. Lady Diana. They're childlike, thank God. Somebody has to be. And the reason the sign sticks out is nobody's ever been in the water till now. That's a big deal. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, nobody's been in the water till then. Then somebody tosses them in the water, and whoop-de-doo, you better learn to swim. Scary, very scary. And they do learn, and the whole zodiac progresses because of it. Thank God. But don't mock this sign. Don't do it. Um, Cancer is probably in my list of things. My list is probably one of the top one or two signs it's hard to be. It's hard to be a Cancer. When you add up everything, it's hard to be a Cancer, it's hard to be a Capricorn, it's hard to be a Pisces. That's after years of study. Doesn't mean I'm right. Give me your own opinion. But like I said, when you get a Cancer who's healthy, who's able to swim and not too dependent on the rest of the family, then you usually got a wonderful person. They're just wonderfully supportive and happy and warm. That's the thing with them. You feel warm and fuzzy. Come over to my house, we'll bake some cookies. The kitchen always smells great. So it's a tough sign. Each sign is tough. They're all tougher in different kinds of ways. So now we go from 4 to 5. We come out of the water sign, we go back to fire, and we get into Leo. Well, Leo's a fixed fire sign. Well, if you have a fire and it is fixed, which means you got a fire and it never goes out, how depressed do you think these people are? Not likely. Right. And it is true. I mean, I've seen depressed Leos before, but in general, they don't get depressed. They're upbeat, like pushing a beach ball underwater, boom, puffs back out. You push it back down, boom, puffs back out. Leo personalities are that way. That's their wonderful gift they've been given by being ruled by the sun. When you're ruled by Big Mama, some Leos you want to say, will you just stop talking? Please, will you just calm down? Sometimes you do want to say that. But in general, Leos are just upbeat. They're just upbeat. Now, whether they turn that into um, self-glorification or just a reasonable upbeatness, that's up to them. Some of them can be unbearably hung up on themselves. Other ones can be just fine. So it all depends. But in general, you don't have much trouble with Leo and with depression. And about the only time I've ever seen depression with Leo can be very serious is because they become unreal. And when they become unreal, you got a very serious problem because they got convinced along the way that they have to act like they're somebody else in order to be accepted. And Leos will do anything to be accepted. Leos are a very social sign and they need to be accepted. And sometimes they get the false message, which you can't argue because you cannot argue with a Leo.
That's right.
Anybody ever try? I know. I Renate was married to one. Anybody know
Oh
Leo?
no, I was married to a Cancer, but we have a Leo in the house, and she was depressed,
Oh,
but
okay.
she is not herself. Yeah,
Okay, but when Leo is really big, we wrote in the book. I hate to say this, they're really big with a four-letter word that starts with F, and that's fine. See, Claudia had a dirty mouth there. She thought I was going to say something else. Leos love the word fine. I had a brother who was a Pisces. He had 4 planets in these seas, God love him. He had 4 planets in Leo. Everything I ever talked to my brother about any subject was just fine.
fine.
Everything was fine, which means don't debate me. We're not going to go there.
No,
Period. Now, we all love Claudia. Claudia is a Leo. She seems to be a very healthy one, very well-rounded. And that's a very nice thing to see. Um, the, the Leo-ness, when it becomes a problem, seems to be much more of a problem with the males than with the females. The females tend to be able to lean towards that emotional side and do pretty well with it, while the Leo males can really have problems with it. It can really be an issue. So the thing with Leos is usually they're upbeat and they're just fine. And I mean, they really are. But the problem with Leo is they get this message in their head. They get this message that I have to be something that I'm not. And when that happens, now you've got the deepest pitfall in the zodiac. When they believe that they can live in castles in the sky and they believe that the damn castle is really there and they're really living there. This is where Trump gets a lot of the stuff. It's a big, beautiful Trump castle. Everybody else looking, I don't see a castle. You cannot debate that issue because it's fixed fire. I'm fixed there. Now, every sign, as you see, has its ups and downs. This next one's a really good one. Let's jump to Sigmund's sign.
Virgo.
Talk. He said, let's talk about Virgos. Virgo takes up more of my time than any other sign. I spend more time talking about this sign and its complexities. Here it is, a sixth. So it's a male sign. It can tend towards depression, but usually not. Okay. It's coming out of Leo, and Leo is so buoyant and a little bit mouthy and talkative, and Virgos can't stand that. They want you to be quiet and behaved and zip your lip. And this is going to really shock some of you. Maybe not, but I really, really recommend you read that book for many reasons. Virgos do not get depressed very often. You know why? They're not allowed to.
Oh. Interesting.
I'm giving you my honest opinion. It's not allowed. You go to a Virgo with a problem, they don't want to hear you crying. Get back on the horse. You made the horse do that. Get on. That's it. Now try again. Very encouraging. You fall off the horse. Don't whine to me. Get back on the damn thing. That's the positive, really strong part of Virgo. That's why you don't see them whining. You don't see them depressed. Now that gets scary. Now you get into a whole new category. You wonder who in the hell is really who? Who's really who here? And you'll find that with Virgos. You'll find that all the time. I'm an expert on Virgo. Is this really them? Or is this really a thing they're putting on? Because they can be very robotic. And they can be very zip-lipped because they just can't stand to allow weakness inside themselves. They can't stand it. And that's admirable. So it can be a tough sign because of that. Because of that, they usually don't get depressed. Think about it. Think about Virgos you know. Unless the sky is falling down. They don't get depressed. They just don't. Very tough sign. Every sign is so different, usually because of one or two little qualities that cause it to be that way. It's fascinating. Okay, let's move on to we should have seen the faces when I said they're not allowed. The whole crowd went,
Libra.
"Oh." Well, it takes all kinds, takes all kinds. We're all different. We're all really different. Okay, now let's go to the seventh sign. Now we're in Libra. I've done this for quite a while. And Libra is male once again. So it tends towards not depressed. Cardinal air is a male sign. It's a leader. There are four leaders in the zodiac. Aries leads by fire. Cancer leads by water, emotion. Libra leads by intellect, thoughts, thinking. And Capricorn leads by practicality. Okay, Libra is a sign that usually is not depressed. You may want to read more about it in this article, but Libra is usually not. Why? Libra, and that's one reason they're one of the favorite signs. They're very social. They want to be with people, discussing what's happening in the world. And usually when you're into that stuff, it's hard to be depressed. And they won't even necessarily get into politics with you. That's more of a Sagittarian quality. Libras will get into politics sometimes. It all depends. But they're very much about what makes society move, what makes you a success in society. And these people are very successful. These, without a doubt, if you compare all 12 signs, these are the most successful people there are. They take the game seriously. They go out to win and they win. You don't see them flipping burgers. You see them uh, running some machine in some hospital or behind some desk at the bank. They just don't mess around. They want a position that they can be proud of. They also like money. They like nice houses, like nice everything, nice jewelry, nice cars.
Mhm.
They like all that stuff. It has to be paid for. And they equate living in the world as being successful according to how much money you have. They just do. And other things. So they're a very materialistic sign. They're usually very upbeat. I think a lot of times, I really think a lot of times they don't want to be seen as depressed because I just think that they kind of see that as mentally weak. And Libras are not mentally weak. I've seen some. They're usually mentally very strong. And if there's anybody who's ever talked yourself into a corner of depression like Capricorn, these are the ones you want to go see. Go talk to your Libra friends. They'll talk you out of it. Because Libras get themselves painted into the corner, little tiny corner. I'm sorry, Capricorn does. Has them painted into a little tiny corner and can't move. And they think that's the only way there is. And you go talk to Libra, says, no, you can go here. You can go there, you hop over here. And they're usually pretty upbeat. Plus, they're ruled by Venus. Very pleasant planet. So usually Libras really aren't too bad with depression. And usually if a Libra or Scorpio is depressed, it's because of one reason. Come on, Claudia. If a Libra or Scorpio gets depressed, it's usually because of one topic.
Some sort of relationship thing?
You're very good. Don't ever hesitate. You're exactly right. Relationships. End of the world. Libras and Scorpio. Oh my God, something's going wrong with my relationship. They can go way overbearing, over boundaries, overboard.
Scorpio.
Usually they don't. They're really pretty level. So you can see why people like the Geminis and the Libras. The Geminis are seldom depressed. They're usually down for about 30 seconds, then they're back up. But they're fun-loving and they're talkative. That's why. We'll talk about Cancer Capricorn later. Oh boy. All right. I try my best to entertain this crowd.
You doing great. We're entertained.
I told I have to tell a lot to that San Leo's sticking up for me. Okay, now we go, and things really start getting unusual now, because now you're in the quadrant of relationships. The book talks a lot about this quadrant, that quadrant, that bless you, that quadrant. In the quadrant of relationships, Libra has got arm candy. You're on my arm. We're going to the ball. We look good. Scorpio is the deep, penetrating love of daytime TV. Fixed water. Fixed water. Fixed means it's not changing. Water means your emotions. That means I love you. I love you. I hate you. I despise you. Fixed water. That's the problem with Scorpio. Now, do they care? No, because they feel the way they feel. Fixed water. Now, do they get depressed? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of Scorpios do fine, but I've seen some of the most morbid people in my life, Scorpios, because they think in such drastic black and white terms. You know, don't give me that piece of jewelry. It's got a dot in the middle, and that's all I'm gonna ever see is that little dot in the middle. I don't want that thing unless it's pure. They're purists, like the Virgos. And the relationship has to be pure, and their possessions have to be pure, and everything they have has to be pure. But the problem comes in with Scorpio that they're not pure.
Yeah.
Because very few people are. And that's where the problem comes in with Scorpio. Self-judgment. Period. And if they're down on themselves, there's usually not a lot you can do about it. I've had parents bring me the story, or they'll bring me the kid's chart, or they'll bring the child to me that has a lot of Scorpio, and I'll just end up an hour later saying, "Good luck. He's a good kid, and I just don't know what to tell you. This kid's going to have to learn his own bumps by himself. Doesn't mean the kid can't get out of it, because he can. Because remember, Scorpio is all about hell and rising from the ashes. The phoenix burnt, rising from the ashes. Don't ever count a Scorpio out. They might be in the midst of 10 years in prison and then come out and change 30 people all around them. They got a hellacious being born again nature. They can draw upon that that aspect of themselves. Usually their problem comes in because they take the relationship too seriously. And that's where the problem comes in because they're all about the word betrayal. They will not allow themselves to betray themselves. They will not allow themselves to betray somebody. They will not allow you to betray them. Big deal. And if they get off track and they start to betray themselves, good luck, is all I can say. Because if they don't like themselves, they're not going to like you. And if they don't like themselves, they're going to find your little weak spots. They'll go find your little weak spots. And they're going to put it on the billboard so everybody can see it. Because they feel that strongly about it, you shouldn't be BSing everybody. Show people who you really are. George Patton, some of our toughest generals were Scorpios. But if they can get past, and I've seen plenty, if they can get past the self-hatred, self-criticism, self-condemning, they can be marvelous, just marvelously powerful people. They really can be because they're the strongest sign of the zodiac without a doubt. They care like crazy. They can be the perfect person to be in a relationship with, or they can be perfect hell in a relationship. Both. If you got one who's got your back and is fair, you're in really good shape. But if you got one that doesn't have your back, you're in real trouble and you need to move like tomorrow. It can be really bad. So you ask me, can they be depressed? Well, sure they can be, but it really matters. It really matters on how hard they are on themselves. Very smart sign. Let's go to Sagittarius. This is where I got in trouble the first time because I said they don't get depressed. And some depressed Sag let me have it one night. I said, okay, okay, you're depressed. All right. Okay, you're depressed. All right. I understand, my dear. I understand. So we get to the ninth sign, and now you are seeing a relationship sign once again, but instead one-on-one, instead of really burying deeply into the partnership like Scorpio, Sagittarius is about relationships with everybody, worldwide, governments, students, professors, politics. A very broad, big sign. And for that woman who's still not listening, can they get depressed? Yes, they can. Yes, you can be depressed if something else in your chart has got you messed up, but usually not. Usually, Sag is the most upbeat sign of the zodiac, them and the Leos. Usually. Sag is fire immutable. That means giving out fire like a fire dragon. Walt Disney World. The fire, the flames, fireworks. Sag is upbeat. They cannot, it tells you in this document here, they cannot stand to be around downers. They cannot stand to be around people who are downers. You can't do it. They'll leave. They can't do it. They won't have it. And they're blunt about it. Well, I mean, it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing to be able to, it's a nice thing to be able to stay upbeat all the time. But what happens with Sag, they get in a lot of trouble because of it. Why is that? Because sometimes half of the house is burning and it's not proper to say, hey, the house is on fire. It'll be okay. It ain't going to be okay. It's on fire. That's the problem with Sag. The problem with Sag is they really overlook things, they underrate things, and they talk dishonestly. It's not okay that the kitchen's on fire. It's just not okay. It's not okay if my husband has four girlfriends. It's just not okay. And I can BS everybody, tell them how it is okay. Nothing bothers me. Hey, what the heck? That's the problem with Sag. What the heck? Hey, what the heck? What the heck? Hey, what the heck? Well, a lot of times it ain't what the heck, and things are bad, and you better just say it instead of ignoring it. That's the problem with Sag. But usually it's not a problem. Usually they're very upbeat, they're happy, funny, clown type people because they love joking around. Just making sense to you, the people that you know. Not making not making sense to the Leo has a Sag daughter. You know,
I'm messing with you.
I know you're lying because you got a Sag daughter. You know exactly
Oh,
what I'm talking about.
good
Okay, but
Lord.
usually they're just upbeat. But the problem with them comes in when they should be down, when they should be negative about something, they're not because they think being negative is unrealistic or whatever it is. Sometimes being negative is accurate. The bank account says 000. It doesn't say 10000. That's what it says. Oh, no, that's not what it says. That's not what it says. Yes, it is. Go try to cash that check. Let's move on to the fun-loving Capricorns. Okay, that's me. The 10th sign, a female sign. Without a doubt, I think being objective, I think it's the most depressed sign of the zodiac. Um, in general, it is a cardinal sign, a leader in its earth, but it's known for sacrificing itself so the rest of the world will be okay. Do you hear what I said? It's known for sacrificing itself like a good father for the good of the rest of the zodiac. And that can lead them towards quite a lot of downer, depressive moments. Yeah. Tough, very strong, very powerful sign, very stubborn. One of the problems, several problems with Capricorns that cause the depressive attitude. One, they don't trust, like Cancer. Those are the two signs that don't trust. You go around not trusting, you're going to get depressed. Making sure. That's their central name. Making sure. Well, sometimes you can't make sure. My kid's away at college, make sure he's got enough money. Well, I gave him all I had. He's still running out of money. I got to make sure. I'm bummed out because he doesn't, and there's nothing else I can do about it. Usually Capricorns are very safe and they're very careful and care making. And that's why they don't get too depressed because they usually plan for everything. Everything's planned ahead. Okay. Now, there are other reasons. Capricorn has a rough time. It's a tough sign. Capricorn feels this tremendous duty and responsibility. And you will not meet one that doesn't feel it. They're imbued with careful, dutiful, responsible. And that's a really nice quality to have, especially when you're the first sign of the final three, which is about the us. Deborah was married to a Capricorn. His answer to everything was no matter how bad things were. What did he say? It could what? You're muted.
In the worst of times, he'd always say, "It could be worse." Yeah, like add that to it. Layer on another thing
Yeah,
about
I mean
how
the
bad it
devil,
could.
but the devil sit in your lap and we'll talk about it. Well, that's just ridiculous, and that's a defense mechanism. But
Yeah.
Capricorns are, for the most part, very underrated. They're a much stronger, happier sign than people think they are. But they're tough because they face reality. And because of that, a lot of signs that don't face reality don't want to be depressed like they are. It can be a tough sign. Let's move forward because it is a tough sign, and I don't want to get depressed. Okay, let's talk about Aquarius. This is a really fascinating sign, Aquarius number 11. It is a air sign and it's fixed. Fixed air, fixed opinions, fixed ideas, fixed thinking, fixed. It's not a water sign, even though that symbol looks like water. That sign stands for water bearer, water bearer. I give back to the world. You've given me a lot. I give back to the world. That's why I'm carrying water to give back. And Aquarians are very generous and very, very idealistic. That's where the water comes from. But it gets confused. People think it's a water sign. It's an air sign. Thinking. Air sign is thinking, communicating. Thinking, communicating. And I must say, with careful consideration, of the whole zodiac after a long time, it's the most stable of all 12, in my opinion. Yeah, you get some crazy ones, but they're just so stable. They know what they think. It may not be right to you. They know what they are. They're very, very friendly. The real thing. They're very, very accepting. And you see one 10 years later, and they're just as friendly as the last time you saw them. Just a wonderful, wonderful song. Now, sometimes, because of the propensity to accept weird things, they can be pretty flaky. Sometimes they can be. And the one I live with is very, very stable. So I don't have any problem there. She's she's over there laughing. Well, you are. You're really pretty stable. She is stable. Um, Aquarians are always trying to put the big mental picture together. Fixed air. They're always, everyone you always talk to, they're always taking that idea that they just heard, trying to look at the ramifications of that idea. Does it fit with my other ideas? That's what Aquarians do, period. That's what they do. And they're usually real good at it. They end up making good detectives, good analysts, great researchers, great authors. But boy, don't argue with one. Fixed air. You better be ready if you're going to argue with one. You better have theses ready to argue with their point of view because they have built their ideas since childhood into their great big mountain of their philosophy. And boy, they will become unruly, uh, stubborn. They will become sometimes stubborn that is just beyond reason, but usually it's not. Now, if you know an Aquarian male, keep an eye on them, but they will not go see the doctor.
That's absolutely true.
They won't do it. Now, I've had my fill with them lately, but I know that sometimes seeing a doctor is a good idea. And I love their ability to look for alternative medicine, etc., etc. But a lot of the times it's just plain old stubborn mule stubbornness. It's just what it is. And you better get them to the hospital or to a doctor if you see their leg hanging off. And I mean, some of them, it gets that bad before they still won't go. It's very common. I don't notice it as much with the women. The women still don't like to go, but the men are much worse about that. But all in all, if I had to choose, you hear people talk about it all the time. When I come back, I want to be a Sag. That's what everybody says. I want to be a Sag because they all think it's just light and fun. They all want to be a Sag. I don't want to be a Sag. I want to be an Aquarian. I don't want to be a Capricorn again. No, maybe someday we'll investigate this with all of you. See what you would rather. Matter of fact, I'm not coming back. How's that? But Aquarius is a very nice sign, all in all. Very underrated. Very underrated. Nice, nice people. Loyal as hell. Okay, we'll move to the 12th and final sign of Pisces. Pisces is a mutable water sign, giving out water. It's a very powerful sign because it's last. And as you know, the book that we wrote was originally called Pisces, the Ultimate Sign, And I had to change that because I just felt like too many people would misunderstand it. But I stick to it to this day because it is that powerful. It is that great of a sign. But it's really hard to be one. It's really hard to understand how being a non-self can turn them into a powerful self. I understand it. I put everything I had into that book explaining it. If you read that book, there's a lot in there about being a Pisces. What is a Pisces? What is not a Pisces? Etc. Do they get depressed? Hell yeah, they get depressed. They get depressed for everybody else. If you're depressed, I'm depressed. But it's a tough sign to understand because they trick themselves. Very complex sign. When I get a really good one, I've seen several, I just sit at their feet and I learn from watching them. Like um our friend
Deneen.
Deneen, yeah. Deneen is a real good example of a person who's been through hell. I know she's had depression, but she's really strong in a non-self way. And I'm sure there have been times when she was real screwed up. So it's a tough sign to explain to people, but they do get depressed. And usually when they get depressed, there's not much you can do about it. They're getting depressed because their dog down the street is depressed, because they were depressed last week, because people in India are depressed. They don't have a difference between you and them. There's no difference between you and others. So if you're depressed, then I gotta be. They don't have the ability to differentiate. That's Virgo. Virgo differentiates. Pisces opposite. We don't differentiate. That's why when they bring a girl home to meet the parents, hey, Pop, Mom, look at this new girl I'm dating. And mom and dad look at each other like, oh my, like this woman is like really not a good match at all. The Pisces doesn't care. The Pisces doesn't see a problem. We get along great. Can't argue with them. They just see life without judgment. So it's a tough sign. Um, Also, usually when you're having an argument with a Pisces, you're not going to get anywhere. Nowhere. Because they don't have a platform. How and how you going to argue with their platform? They don't even have one. Then they'll try to kid you. Good luck. I mean, Pisces is a very confusing sign to try to tackle. That's why usually with the greatest Pisces that you see, they're also pretty screwed up at the same time. It's really hard to have it all together. I guess one might say, I guess one might say that Jesus was the perfect symbol of the perfect Pisces. I kind of think that myself, but I don't know. So we got a little bit, about 10 minutes left for you to uh, wave your different thoughts, to put your finger in the air, to wave your hand, talk about things you agree with, don't agree with. What's on your mind? Deborah, tell me more about your ex-husband who was the Capricorn.
Oh God. Well, he was all the things you said, the strong, the leader. He was old for his age. Um, I married him right after I lost my father. He sort of was, I think, the replacement. I see that in hindsight. And he was capable and all those things. But I, over time, could feel his disregard for me and my more open and freelancing nature.
Yeah,
and
I will
it
tell you.
ultimately became very problematic.
I will tell you.
And also when I would spend money more lavishly, which I did after I started working, after being a stay-at-home mom for 8 years, um, he really hated it, because I guess he was always worried that there would never be enough money, and we
Threatening
got
you.
to pay
Yeah,
the
you
tax.
said. He didn't trust. He didn't trust. Well, I'll say
It was
something to you.
horrible.
I'll say something to you, and I think that you should hear this, and other people should hear it too. Because there have been times in the past couple of years that I've been astonished at your chart, and I've gone back to your chart just to look at it to learn. And Deborah has a phenomenal chart because she's got that Taurus, but she's got that real strong Jupiter next to Eris. Because I got to looking at her one day and saying, where are these Arisian types of things coming out? I mean, Eris and Taurus are just really opposite. And she's really Arisian. And she's very Taurian. And she's got a whole bunch of other things. Her chart's just really nicely balanced. And I watch her through Facebook commonly, and I see her attitudes, and she's given level-headed thought to what she's looking at, what she's considering. She's heartfelt. She loves people, but she's not goofy about it. I mean, she's got a very nice balanced chart. And that is not an easy thing to accomplish. But I wanted you to know that that's my opinion of it because it's a very nice thing to see because you don't always see it. You're welcome.
Well, maybe that's because I was the seventh of 8 children. Maybe
I
things
don't think
just
so.
got easier with each
I
kid.
think you're just a special soul, and that's just how it goes from my
Oh, thank you.
observation. Jane, what's on your mind? Come on. Were you married before?
Yeah, I was married to a Libran, and that lasted about
Yeah.
5
You
years.
see how she said that? I was married to a Libra. Tone of voice. I was married to a Libra.
So true. No, yeah, that was interesting. But I think the whole
Interesting.
the
My
whole thing
favorite.
you say, the whole thing you say about Aries and just go, because there's been so many times when I've just gone, oh, I'm not gonna even research this. I'm gonna move to Melbourne from Sydney, by myself. Just gonna do it.
That's it.
It's like
That's
it's like
it.
when I got married. It's like when I got married. When I'm going to Melbourne, I was living in Melbourne and I'm going to move up into the country in Victoria, and
Let's
marry
just
this guy.
go.
It's
It'll
just,
work out.
and then
Yeah.
I learn from it.
Well, of course you do. And the Libra and
Yeah,
the Librans
head first.
learning by watching the mistakes and adjusting, and they learn in different ways. But you can just see what happens to young Aries if you sit on them. It really
Oh, I was
it
sat
kills
on. I was
it
sat on.
kills their spirit.
Yeah, I got to say, I was going to say, I had a lot of depression younger, and I got myself out of it eventually. But
Why
back
did
in
you have it?
2013.
Why did you have it when you were younger?
I think I really was very squashed
Yeah.
in my family, and just my yeah, just really squashed
Yeah,
in many ways. Yeah.
caution.
Yes, yes, yes. So, but I can see how much I've grown from that as well. I
I
mean,
have
it's hard,
seen
but
I have seen so many Aries people with problems with their circulation. Think about it. It
yeah,
ain't circulating.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
now I don't understand you. When I wrote the first chapter of the book, I had to put myself in your shoes. And a Capricorn trying to fit in an Aries shoe is not easy. Because I know that I'm not moving to Melbourne unless I look up a few things.
Well, I did. I mean, I set up having a
Yeah, you
job and
looked
a
at it for
house.
5 minutes. I know you did. But I don't understand how you guys can do it, but you do it.
I don't understand it either. It is just this when it's like when you've got this it's not really tunnel vision, but a bit like that, where you just go, I've got this idea and I'm going to make this work. It's just,
That's why
yeah.
you're the first sign of the zodiac.
And
Huh?
not
Well,
always
she's
like
a
that.
pioneer too.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah.
Come on, Claudia, say what between your lips there. I just enjoy the hell out of Jane. Jane just
Oh, I
is
know.
what she is, and that's it.
Yeah. Who doesn't enjoy Jane? Uh, this whole talk is, of course, intriguing and funny and all this stuff. And I always wonder too, the propensity for somebody's depression or anything like that,
That's right.
related to their moon sign, or
Oh,
if there's aspects to their moon.
mhm.
Uh, that's a fun exercise to do, because just because like I'm a Leo, I've been depressed a lot in my life, but because I'm a moon in Pisces, and I have a lot in Cancer. So, but I get what you're saying, that the archetypal energy of just on their own, Leos are not depressive sort of folks,
In general, yeah.
in general, yeah. But it is interesting how we all handle it so differently, how
You
you,
got to handle it the way you can handle it.
yeah, yeah. Um, every sign you went through, I thought about people. Okay, so I know this Virgo, like a Virgo lady I used to know. I could tell she was really struggling and she was really not doing well, but she wouldn't admit it. She wasn't going to admit it to me, if maybe not even herself. I don't know.
Of course not.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then just each sign. I was married to a Sagittarius, but very scorpionic person, also very Arisian. He didn't like himself at all. It was difficult being with a scorpionic person. Um, this is changing to another topic. It doesn't matter.
That's okay. Sure. Mr. Sigmund, what is it about Virgos? I'll give you the floor. What is it about Virgos that they feel they're not allowed to be depressed? Or tell me I'm wrong.
I
That
can't
they're
presume.
not allowed to what?
Be depressed.
Oh,
I can't presume to speak for all Virgo.
perfection.
Well, just speak for yourself.
Well, there is perfection, especially if it's uh, generational.
Yeah.
But Virgos, as many of us know, want to fix stuff, and
Exactly.
if the focus is ourselves, then anything anything becomes a baseline for something that we can fix. So we just roll up our sleeves and we just dive in.
I wrote that in the book about talking to a Virgo long ago, and they had a problem, and the next day they had it fixed. And I told Liza, this ain't right. How they fix it so quickly? What does that mean? They got modular spark plugs? Well, what does it mean? How the other signs have to go through a period of mourning or whatever, change. Not the Virgo takes out one plug, puts a new one.
Yeah, the Virgos take care of all the prerequisites very quickly, and then as when they refocus, the neurons and dendrites are really well greased.
Ooh, everybody, that's the way to end the show, buddy. The neurons and the dendrites are well greased. Ooh. Now, next week, I will be going Doctorville, but I think I'll be here to do the show. The following week, I'm probably not going to be able to do the show, and we'll look to. There's Rick. What are you hiding for? We'll look to Uncle Rick and Aunt Claudia again, if that's the case. I'll let you know. I apologize to all of you because I don't have a way of letting you know through Zoom. So the best bet is to keep an eye on Facebook, and I'll be notifying you what is in store for the coming subject and coming hostesses. Anything we gotta end with what Simon said. You gotta get your dendrites and your what? And your neuropeptide.
Thanks, Rick.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks. Happy Easter, everyone,
Wow.
or whatever.
Happy Easter.
Yes.
Hey, Sigmund, there's no tips on your gloves.
God bless everyone.
You better go
I
fix
can't.
those gloves. Got no
I
tips.
can't
Bye,
maneuver the
everyone.
computer without
See.
with coverings on my
Oh
fingertips.
my God. Good
I
night.
love it.